Welcome to another episode of NYC CNC.
Bit bent, so do not crack.
Big section.
I cut them from one side. Plop them in, push it, take the bed, and so pretty. So here I am in Västerås in a hotel with my wife, thinking about the only reasonable thing: ABB robots.
Hello there. So this is going to be quite a long video. There's gonna be everything in here. Hopefully, I say that now, but it's not gonna, because I'm gonna forget half of it, but you know how it is. So, I don't know if you saw an introduction video like 30 seconds before this, but I hope you did. And to quickly recap, it's been somewhat of a journey, as all journeys are. So I opened a proprietorship in 2010 alongside my current job. Started off making furniture, mostly poker tables. Maybe there's a video showing you some poker tables right now. I used to drive a truck and be a crane operator before that, during that. And then the person who was holding the camera was born. And I did everything, and we invented a snow melting machine that melts snow for the city of Stockholm, and it was good. It was exciting for a couple of years, and we got it patented and whatnot, but yeah, that's pretty much over. And I built my own CNC, as you guys also, most of you have done. Mach 3, etc. Never again. Some Linux CNC too. Watched Grimsmo do his thing. Watched Saunders grow up on YouTube, basically. And after having built 1.5 machines, I found a used 2000s multicam router, which I, for a year or two, converted to be better at cutting aluminum, because that was my interest, my passion. There's probably a bunch of clips for that too. Luckily enough, I was actually offered to take over a shop here next door from the landlord. He's trying to retire, but it didn't get that far. I got a contact within the defense industry, and the rest is pretty much history. So there was a need for aluminum cutting and production of components that I already was wishing that I had been making. So awesome. Head off to all you guys who are entrepreneurs out there and have done a similar journey. There's a lot of you. And if you haven't listened to the podcast Within Tolerance, then go ahead and do that, because it's awesome and you can relate. I mean, it's hard to find people who's done a similar journey, so it's really fun to listen to those guys. Anyway, so let's get going. So it's been quite a while since I released a video, and that's because it's been busy. So much work has been done, and we have a new customer that requires us to have ISO certification. So we are in the process of certifying ourselves within FR 2000, which is the Swedish equivalent of 9001, 14001, and 45001. So we had a successful audit a couple of weeks ago, and all we need to do now is send in some additional documentation, and the green light is a go. So very happy about that. We're going to be talking about DLC coding tools, so we might as well get going. Let's go. So I found this company called Ion Bond. Hopefully there's a video up right now. And I sent a bunch of tools for DLC coding, because as I've been saying, I'm using Crown Norge, not the superior ones, they're older series with not as good of a coating. The superior ones have a better coating, but they keep breaking on me. So what I did was I bought uncoated 4mm Crown Norge tools, and I sent them to Ion Bond to have them coated with their best type of coating, and that coating is really reminiscent of the original coating on the Crown Norges. Super good, clean cut, no stickiness. So they're my new go-to pretty much. And of course I haven't prepared anything, so I can't find them right now, but anyway. Another one of you guys on the net there asked about the undercutting tools. I might as well show you those. Hopefully the camera is able to focus. Can you see that? Syns det? So it goes down into the cutout of the 4mm tool. There's a gap, of course, of 4mm since the tool has just been there. So we go down into there and underneath the aluminum edge and all the way around. And then we back out before we go back up again. Hopefully there's some graphics or something I can put on screen right now so you can see how that works. I've made templates for all of those things, of course. So this is the piece for yesterday, and the last pass is the bottom chamfering. So as we can see the path here. That's the white line there, and as you can tell here, that's our entry point. We go down in Z, and underneath the material all the way around you pass itself and up through there. Here's some cutting parameters, just 45mm a second, and I'm going 0.35 in underneath the sheet, and we're going slightly past the sheet, of course, because you don't want the very tip of the tool, you don't want it touching the aluminum. So yeah, that's how that works. Can greatly recommend. Also, this was brought up recently about tension in aluminum sheets, and that is a problem. If the sheets aren't flat, it's a headache, truly. And when you cut stuff out, it tends to flake up and you can't chamfer the stuff. I even crashed my suction cup there into one of those pieces, so I've had to modify or push it back pretty much. It's fine. but it is definitely a concern. Turns out I sent those sheets back, and I got 10 new ones. Same problem again. I sent them back again, and I asked them to find out where they came from. And just specifically that batch was from China. They buy from all over the world. So the third time's the charm. I asked them to send me some sheets that came from Germany, and those were as flat as they typically normally are. And this was maybe the worst case so far, and it has affected me in a way that I'm probably going to request always getting my sheets from a German manufacturer, just because it's such a headache when there's a bow or something in the material. Hopefully there's a few clips I've been showing you during this discussion. So yeah, let's see. DLC coating. We have DLC coating. We coated our press brake tools. Let's do this thing. Filma över min axel. Let's do it like this. Well, before I send them off for DLC, well, while they're away for DLC, we've earned a week of vacation. See you back in Sweden. Jesus Christ. What is this? Having to scrape the inside of the windshield at minus 10 Celsius. I missed the beach. Oh. DLC coated press brake tools. You can clearly see magnets that's been holding these in this specialty machine. So this top surface has actually been DLC coated. It's not exactly the same type of DLC as the cutting tools, but it's a DLC. And the point of that is to not have aluminum get stuck in the die, because it's going to mar the aluminum, it's going to affect the precision of the angles and everything. And having the felt here, which I've been using all this time, that does really affect the angle precision. Disclaimer, while we were away, I sent all my tools at the same time for this treatment, and that's not recommended because the result was not optimal. We're working with the supplier, so no problem, they're taking care of it. They're gonna recoat a bunch of stuff. But I can tell you that when it works, it's amazing. I've been probably bent 150, 200 bends in this specific area. You can't even tell, there's not a speck of aluminum on there. And like you saw on that piece we made yesterday, look at these bend lines. Så om vi kan filma dem här. They're really shiny, and you can't really feel them either. I don't know, I keep telling myself that I can feel them, but I'm not sure. So that's really nice, because it does affect the overall appearance of the part. Like having 0 scratches is not, necessary most often, but it does give a better sense of it. It feels like higher quality. In people's eyes, it's gonna look better and feel better. So that is why. And the company is Ion Bond, so let's see if we get all these dies fixed, because that's a game changer. That's gonna be really nice. Let's see what's up next. We got the automation, Power Automate. We got our VB scripts. We gotta talk about some AI. That's a game changer as well. We're gonna take a quick look at the suction cup. We got a question about that, and we could do that right away. So this part goes up and down on these guides that are in here, being pushed by these pneumatic rods. And this cup is this thick, and the platter is 3D printed to allow these tubes, PTFE tubes, to be guided to the center of the tip. Let me lower the cup so you can see that. Maybe you can hear that the extractor started automatically. There's a pressure switch in there that's activating, sending a signal through the radio transmitter. Let's see. Let me start the compressor had its valve shut automatically as well. It's gonna take a second before it builds up pressure here, but hopefully you're still able to hear me. So I don't know if you can see that, but there's some tiny ethanol jets coming out of there, and there. Ideally there will also be one there, but I don't have that for now. I'm thinking to be able to reduce my ethanol usage even more, maybe have these tubes extend closer to the end mill by the air pressure that's forcing the suction cup to lower. Hopefully that didn't sound too bad in your ears. And while we're on topic, I just have to mention that this machine has been amazing. The entire business has been built using this machine. And of course, I'm always focusing on the next problem, the next improvement I want to do, but my God, this has been such a dream machine to have. I can wholeheartedly recommend it more than anything. Not to forget the press brake too. Awesome machine. And the guys who sold it, dreamy guys. Peter and Philip. So let's see. I'm probably gonna switch over to recording the screen for the Power Automate, the VB scripts, and some AI. Okay. So this is gonna be quite intense probably. This is not gonna be much of a tutorial because there's a lot better videos out there for that. So I'm gonna try to keep a tempo here so you don't get too bored. But so this is Windows Power Automate. This is an RPA tool, a robotic process automation. It's amazing, game-changing thing, of course. So get into this if you have the chance or possibility. It could really automate a bunch of stuff in your current business. So let's have a look. So I start off with a loop condition just because I want this to continuously run in the background. I don't want to run it like separately one at a time. So as long as 111 is equal to 111, it's gonna keep looping this. The first is just a label, ignore that. It's waiting for a specific window to show up. That way it knows that it's time to get to work. And when that window shows up, I can show you like this. Let's take our part from yesterday. So me selecting a surface that is going to end up being the top surface in the CNC router, this box shows up. And this value, the thickness of the material, that's of interest to us. So it's going to pick that out and save that in a variable for later. And as I said, when this shows up, it knows that it's gonna get to work. So it's gonna automatically click this OK button and present us with a little box. So let's run it so you get to see that happen. So that's our box. It's gonna save the thickness and it's gonna present us with this thing. So I've set it so if I have this checked, then it's also going to make the bending program. I don't always want to make that because if I had 10 different pieces to make, I leave this unchecked, so I process them, the DXFs anyway, and I get my worksheet printout for all 10 parts. What I then do is import all 10 of them in the bending program at once and try to make a common setup. That means that it's trying to make it so that one tool setup in the press brake actually can bend all of the parts, so I don't have to make different tool setups. That's really a time saver. So let's stop that. So after I've clicked this run button there, here's our custom form, by the way, that thing we just saw. It's going to send a shortcut keys to the program. Let's see what that looks like. So if me pressing Alt, that's going to present up in the left corner there all of the well, options you have. So if we go to H, we can see a bunch of new options, and up on your right there we have MM. So me pressing MM, that's gonna press the button for us. Really sweet. So after that, it's gonna wait half a second and then send the return key. That's gonna automatically press that OK button. This part is not that interesting. It's gonna go on and run a X and Y subflow after doing some certain things. Let me show you. So it's gonna click this button to create the unfold diagram. And of course, this is something I have trimmed in so that it really corresponds well with the real world when producing a part. Then it's going to pick out these dimensions in X and Y to be able to calculate the material usage and therefore cost. It's also going to apply a certain percentage of excess material. That's always going to be the case when cutting stuff out. And how big that percentage is depends on the size of the part. I don't think my cost estimation is really correct at this point. I'm not really monitoring it yet. I will in the future more, and that's when it gets more important that it's correct. But just know that. So after that, it runs a part name check. That's going to be this thing. All it does is check if the part name begins with ANL, then it does something special for that in that case, and different for IGN or SACOM. Not really applicable for you probably. And when saving the DXF, it does a bunch of tabs just to get to the correct checkbox, if you will. So let's move on. So if a title bar, a specific window charts up with an error message, then it's going to click left and then send return. So it moves on. Okay, so we're gonna be taking a screenshot of the part. Well, before we get to that, it's gonna press this default button, and that's just for this to show up again. And then it's gonna take a screenshot of this and save it to the same folder and name it to the same file name. Let's see. So then it's gonna start up a command session and run a Visual Basic script that I have written. And what that does is, let's see, this is the logger rename to. That's just a layer renaming Visual Basic script. And if you know anything about Visual Basic scripts, you're gonna think that this is a mess, because it is, but it works, so you know how it is. You don't clean it up until you have to. Pretty much what it does is it takes the part name and the thickness of the part into consideration so that it can change the name of the outer loop, that's the outer perimeter of all the parts, and change that to outer loo and the thickness of the part. The FM up and FM down are form tools because Production Designer is meant for Amada's machines, a punch press or laser. But I have registered certain operations to these form up and form down tools so that I can do countersinks using these features. So the standard hole, that's a bit more advanced because we don't only want all our holes depending on the size. If it's too big of a hole, it's gonna be placed in the inner loop instead, because that means we don't wanna do a pocketing operation. Then we wanna cut the inside perimeter so that we don't spend forever pocketing a big thing with a 4mm single foot, for example. So what we do, here's just we find specific areas of our DXF. A DXF file is just a text file, so you can open it in any text management tool, notepad, whatever. And so since this is a regex pattern, so that way we can find all instances of every hole in the DXF. I'm not going to go too deep into that. You can ask if you want to. There's a lot of commented stuff because I don't need it anymore. This section, well, let's say an M6 hole. So this row checks if the specific hole is the radius of it is between 2.511 and 2.54. And if it is, then it's going to change that layer name to standard hole, from standard hole to M6 dash and then the thickness, so that the camera then knows that that specific hole is an M6 hole. That way it's going to first cut the hole, then it's going to thread the hole, and then it's going to chamfer the top of the hole. The same for M8s, M10s, M12s, and so on. And let's say up here we have, let's say it's not an M3 or M4 or M5 hole, but it's just a small hole. Then it's going to be named this thing, just so that the Kimla knows that a 4mm single fluid is not going to fit in that hole. Use a smaller tool, otherwise it's going to just skip that. That was quick. Hopefully you were able to tag along there. And then what we have is running the PDF subflow. If there's not an image showing the bend, if it's not a bent part, then it's going to run this. Otherwise it's going to continue and also run this later. What this does really is PDF subflow. It checks the folder that the imported 3D model is in, and it checks, does this part have its own PDF? Because if it does, odds are that file is going to contain information about clinching nuts, powder coating, welding, etc, etc. Sometimes that information is stored in the sammanställning or SMST files. That is a group collection of information regarding this specific part or parts. So it finds all of those and extracts the text out of all of those PDFs, and then just simply looks for specific phrases like sweats or clinching nuts or paints and whatnot. So when having done that, it's starting this command session again and runs this Visual Basic script. I'm doing all of this outside of Windows PowerMed instead of doing it inside, because I don't like being stuck, well, having everything in one basket. What if Windows PowerMed Automate starts costing $5,000 tomorrow? Then I want to be able to do the same things I'm already doing using VB scripts. So a big important task like this, I'd rather have that separately in a Visual Basic script. So this is that script. This first part is just chopping up the file path, like all the folders and everything, so that it knows where this file is, so that it can check the folders for relevant content. And this part is for if it finds sweats mentioned in any of those PDFs, then the paper that it prints will have this label in a specific location. All of those refer to just specific types of paints and whatnot, anodization, and yeah. I'm putting these exclamation marks before and after the flat measurements, and that's just because I want to be able to find that specific string later, because I can't just search for a random amount of numbers, because I'm gonna find a bunch of stuff that I don't want to. But if I put these exclamation marks before and after, then I know all the numbers that are in between these sections, that's what I want. And the powder coating guys use that measurement to price the parts. This section is pretty much the same, but for clinching nuts and rivets and surface treatment and whatnot. So that also ends up on the worksheet, so that I don't have to keep track of that stuff myself. So I'm gonna have to probably blur that section, because there's a bunch of emails and stuff there. So this part is using a Word document. I can't show you that, I'm afraid, but what it does is send all the relevant information to that Word document. That's a template for my worksheet that has the QR code and everything. So it just replaces the text and information in the Word document before saving it as a PDF and printing it. So that is that. This section down here writes the X and Y values and the thickness to this text file, which then is parsed using the Visual Basic script. This bend part is just, I'm not using that anymore. I got that section in this main file, running the auto button for auto generating the bend program. This is just in case utskrift 2 is equal to true. That is checked in the first box you saw in the beginning. Then it's going to print the yellow labels I used to put on the customer products before they picking them up. So let's see, is there anything else in here of interest? Not really. No, that is pretty much it. On your left here you can see all the operations that you're able to run. There's a bunch of AI possibilities here too, so you can do some invoice processing or sentiment analysis of emails and stuff. We'll see where things go, but it's interesting to say the least. If you haven't seen or heard about OpenAI's ChatGPT, then you really need to have a look at that. This is just a demo thing that I did before. I said, write me a VB script that monitors a folder and subfolders for new files, and when new files are detected, copy the names to a text file in the folder they are in. Append them, do not overwrite them. One on each row. The text file should always be up to date, so that if some files are removed, then they should also be removed from the text file. Bam! It just gives me the code. Of course, this code is not going to be waterproof and work like out of the box. Some of the times 50% of the time pretty much, but it's going to take you just 10 more minutes to ask some follow-up questions to get your code up and running. This is a complete game changer. I have like cut my programming time, I want to say half, but I mean it's probably I'm doing a fourth as much work now as I did before accomplishing the same thing. So it has really accelerated that part for me. So you can ask anything. You've probably seen demos here, but write me oh my Jesus, write me a story about Amanda learning to write up, but keep it short because it likes to talk, so long stories typically. Den här ska vara sådär. You see, this is crazy, and it can program, it can do anything, and we are being ISO certified, as I mentioned, and I've used this AI bot to write some of our documentation. It's amazing. So you might want to pause if you want to read it, but what I can do now is say write it again, but with a pirate theme, and throw in a dinosaur somewhere there. That's not how you spell dinosaur, but anyway. I mean, look at this thing. I'm telling you, it's not perfect, but this is just a research preview. It's amazing for what it is. So Power Automate and RPA, sure, but when you can apply this to it, I'm also looking into TensorFlow. That's, well, you can look that up yourself. Stop generating. Anyway, so yeah, that is that. I'm also considering making a extension for Fusion so I can just do a thing here and it runs the automation. That's gonna be sick. Have I forgotten anything? We got the Power On, the VBS scripts, we got the AI. No, I think that's gonna be it for now, because we gotta get going. Anyway, I'm really happy that people do like these videos, and the community is the best part, where I get to follow other guys doing pretty much the same thing, because I don't know anybody who does this, so that's really fun. So thanks for watching, thanks for commenting, have a good time, and well, have a good day. Talk to you soon. Bye.